What's up, poker people? My name's Wes, and this is my poker vlog. Today, we're going to be playing a 1-3 no-limit cash game session at Texas Card House in Houston, Texas. I'm going to buy into the game for $1,000. Wish me luck.
This is for entertainment only. I am not a professional poker player. I'm not trying to be a poker coach. I'm trying to share the fun of the games I'm playing. Enjoy the action. Alright, this video is all about exploitative poker, taking advantage of your opponents. If you've been watching poker videos on YouTube for the past few years, you've probably seen a lot about GTO or Game Theory Optimal Poker. Doug Polk, Jonathan Little, etc. They have a lot of GTO in their videos, but they all agree that exploitative play is the best way to make more money in poker. Listen to this from Doug.
You can try and exploit people, and if you're good at exploiting them, you'll win more.
The idea here is that Game Theory Optimal is about not being exploited, where exploitative poker is about exploiting and taking advantage of the other players. If you're playing against players that aren't good at taking advantage of you, then GTO isn't the best way to play. It's still a good and profitable way to play, and you should start every session in playing this way until you kind of figure the players out. But in the end, exploitative play is going to make more money. Ben CB, the online super high roller winner and poker coach, tweeted today, GTO serves you to understand poker. Exploiting serves you to make more money in poker based on what you learn from GTO. And this is so true. You learn GTO and then you play an exploitative style to make the most money and to have more fun. In this hand, I've got pocket queens and I'm going to raise it up. This is just a standard play. I would define exploitative plays as plays that are abnormal, and if you've been watching my channel for a while, you've seen me check raise with bottom pair before. I would describe that as an exploitative play. In this hand, we have pocket queens, I'm raising it up, and we're going to a flop. It's a jack-high flop, a very good flop for me. It's always nice to have these pairs that are just above the board. I'm going to see a bet $40, and the player on my left calls. Now I'm going to describe this guy to you guys because it's important to know he had a hoodie on over his head, he had sunglasses on, and he was hiding his face on some hands. This guy's taking this session very seriously. The turn is an 8. I don't really think this card helps my opponent that much, and I decided to check to do something a little bit different. I checked intending to check raise, and this is not how I would normally play this hand. My opponent bets $75 and I'm going to raise. Since this isn't a GTO play, the sizing isn't really a predetermined size. It can be any size, and I make it $250. I thought my opponent might feel like I'm getting out of line. It's kind of an odd play to c-bet the flop and then check raise the turn. You don't see this very often. I thought if he had a really good jack, he might just commit his stack right here, which is about $300, but instead he folds. And that's one of the issues with playing an exploitative style. Sometimes you're going to make a play based on a read or some sort of guess on what your opponent might do, and you might just be wrong. Betting might have been better instead of a check raise, but I did get $75 out of him. Maybe I could have got a bet on the turn and a bigger bet on the river. Who knows? In exploitative poker, you're going to want to be aggressive, you're going to want to be re-raising, and you're going to want to find people like this guy in the cutoff who's raising, and you're going to want to re-raise him and take advantage of what they're trying to do. Sometimes exploitative plays will look just like GTO plays, and re-raising a late position raiser is game theory optimal. The idea is to focus on people's mistakes and take advantage of them being too tight or too loose. As I make this raise, watch this guy across the table. There's still probably 4 or 5 players left to act. He's already grabbing his chips, ready to call. He seems like maybe he just wants to snap call when it gets to him. But if you're watching this guy, you can pick up some tells. He's clearly just going to call here. He's never going to re-raise. So I raise Queen Jack offsuit in this hand, and we're going to a flop 4 ways. The flop is 9-3 deuce, so I pretty much miss, but I have 2 overs. I kinda have 3 to a straight. It checks to me. I decide to c-bet $75. Now what we really want is 3 folds. But we can also hit a 10, queen, jack, or a king, and all those improve my equity, but everybody folds. This Saturday, I'll be at the Texas Card House in Austin, Texas, playing on a live stream. And I'm also doing a meetup game, so if you want to come hang out, come to Texas Card House and follow me on Twitter to find the link to the live stream for when we go live. There's a $6 straddle under the gun, and I'm under the gun +1. I have King 10 suited, I decide to raise it up. I make it $25 to go. Watch my man over here again, getting his chips ready to call. And he snap calls. I raise King 10 of clubs. We get a call from the cutoff and a call from the button. The straddler's thinking about it, and he decides to fold. We're gonna go 3 ways to the flop. I'm out of position with King 10 suited. The flop is Jack 10-7 with 2 spades. There are no clubs on this flop, but I flopped a pair and I'm gonna bet it. I bet $65. It's over to our man Quickie and he folds. The button is tanking. He's got his chips in a rack, and anytime someone's willing to pull chips out of a rack, you assume they have a pretty good hand. He was about to leave and now he wants to play a hand. And the turn is a jack of clubs. If he already had a jack, well, we're in really bad shape now. It's kind of that way ahead or way behind scenario. So I check and he checks behind. Maybe he didn't have a jack. The river's an ace and it's a spade. There's no way I can value bet this, but maybe I should be bluffing? But I don't really know what I think this guy has, so I just decide to check. He snap checks behind and shows a red ace king. I guess a bet on the turn would have worked, but instead he wins the hand. There's a raise and a call. I have ace jack offsuit. I decide to re-raise to $85. It's the old squeeze play, but in reality this is a pretty good hand. These guys don't seem to want to play a very big pot. I'm just gonna keep making it big pre-flop. We get 2 folds and we take it down. This hand starts with 2 limpers, shocking. I look down and I have a card that has a letter on it, so I'm gonna raise it on up. I make it 20 to go. Look at Quickie over here, getting his 20 ready. I raise up ace of hearts, 5 of diamonds. This is just really an exploitative play. I'm taking advantage of this table limping over and over, but I'm gonna make sure I do it with a playable hand, and then I'm gonna be in position. One of the limpers gets out of the way, and it's me and Quickie heads up to the flop. There's a 5 of hearts right in the window. The flop is queen 5-8 with 8 5 of hearts. I have bottom pair and a backdoor flush draw. Quickie checks, and I make it $30. He decides to call. We're gonna see a turn card. The turn is the queen of hearts. That's a pretty interesting card. It gives me a flush draw, it pairs the top card, and now Quickie just leads out $40. This seems like a blocker bet. Maybe he has a hard draw. I just want to call here and hope he does have a hard draw and that we both hit the heart. But instead, the river's a jack of diamonds. He checks and I just check behind. He doesn't want to show his cards. We do the little play of, no, you show, I'm not gonna show, you're supposed to show, I'm not, oh. And he shows 6-9 of clubs for a missed gut shot draw. New hand, and we've got more limping. After 2 limpers, the next 2 players fold, and I look down at a suited ace deuce, and guess what? I'm gonna raise it up. Mr. Quickie immediately grabs chips. Surprise, surprise. It's on you, Quickie. Hello, Quickie. It's on you. Action, Quickie. Call. Thank you. And it's over to the under the gun limper. And guess what? He's gonna fold. We're heads up against Quickie again. I've got an ace again. This time I flop an ace. The flop is ace of hearts, queen of clubs, 6 of clubs, and Quickie checks instantly. It's over to me, and I decide I'm gonna bet this ace against a guy who's willing to call with gut shots, and I make it $40 to go. Quickie likes this, and he calls. The turn is a 9 of diamonds. I still like my hand. Quickie checks again. He's only got about 150 left behind. The pot is 250, so I just put them all in, and he folds. Quickly. And this hand starts with more limping. I've got 10-9 suited. I raise it up. I make it 20 to go. And Quickie is reaching for chips again. Is he just trying to play every pot with me? Quickie, a little too quick there, buddy. It wasn't your turn yet. Oh, he pulls it back. He realizes it wasn't his turn. Now Quickie calls. Is this going to be another heads-up pot between me and Quickie? The small blind folds. The big blind folds. Ah, a limper who calls. We're going 3 ways to the flop. The flop is queen, queen, 4 with 2 diamonds. I flopped a flush draw, so I'm going to see a bet. The limper checks to me, and I make it 50 to go. Quickie snap folds. It's over to the limper. He decides to call. The turn is a 9. Now I have a pair and a flush draw. Under the gun just ships it for 100, and I call. The river's a deuce, and I show my hand. And if you play poker, don't do what this guy does. Look how long we're sitting here staring at my hand before he mucks. Just muck your cards. You didn't win the hand. Muck your cards. Oh my God. I win. This hand has a $6 button straddle, and it starts with a cascade of folds. I look down at deuces. Yep, I'm gonna raise my deuces. And just as I'm reaching for chips, I realize the guy on my right actually just limped in. I make a little bit bigger. I make it 40 to go. I was about to only make it 35. You guys should see by now how annoying it is to have me on your left, raising and re-raising constantly. But these guys just keep limping. And I see this in so many games. I have no idea what's going through their mind. I don't know if they think they're just gonna limp in and I'm gonna limp behind them. I don't know if they like limping and seeing me raise and calling. I don't understand it. But we're going to this flop 3 ways. I have deuces and the flop is 9-8-3 rainbow. Now here's the deal. Mathematically, a player's gonna miss the flop 70% of the time. And I don't care that I have an underpair. Look, this guy's gonna fold ace queen suited face up on this flop, and we're just gonna move on to the next hand. This hand starts with a $6 button straddle, and oh my God, we have a limp and a call at a turn. Now the big blind gets to see 3 folds and a limp, and he decides to raise it up. The guy who initially limped decides to call the $35 raise, and I look down at pocket tens. It's quite possible that the big blind saw all that action, the folds and the limp, and then decided to raise a marginal hand. I'm gonna go ahead and find out. All right, Mr. Big Blind, what do you got? Well, he's already uncapped his cards, so that's probably a good sign. He folds. It's over to the out of turn limper, and he goes all in now. It's quite possible that he's just frustrated that the big blind got to raise after he limped in, and now he had to call a big raise, but it's a bad board for me. We've got a queen, a jack, and now an ace on the river, but he shows pocket fours and I take it down. There's a little bit of a backstory to this hand. There's a player 2 to my left who's been drinking and having a good time. He's at the end of his night and he's racking up about $3,000 worth of chips. He said, guys, this is my last orbit. I'm gonna blind raise every hand to $20. So in this hand, the guy next to me limps, the guy makes it 20, and now the button makes it 100. The first limper folds and the blind raiser calls. The flop is ace-8 for all hearts. The $20 raiser checks. The button rechecks his cards. And then he bets $200. The out of position player thinks about it and makes the call. The turn is the 9 of spades. Now the out of position player just rips it in. The button has about $1,200, so it's a $1,200 all in. He covers the button. The button has a decision to make now. This is one of those spots where you just hate to lose to the guy who's racking up chips and was about to leave, especially when he puts his whole stack in and he covers you. But the button calls. The river is the 7 of spades, and the out of position player shows 9-7 of hearts. He flopped a flush. Oh, the button had pocket kings with the king of hearts. What a cooler. $1,200. Bye-bye. What you probably didn't notice is that as soon as the out of position player went all in, I got up and went to the cage, and I bought $2,000 more worth of chips and put them on my stack as quick as possible for the next hand, before this guy leaves. So I had 1,000 in my stack. I wanted to be able to win the max. Now I'm in for 3K. I have 3K in front of me. And this is where everything gets out of hand. Everybody's thinking the way I am. Hey, let's just limp in, call this guy's 20, try to get lucky. So the guy on my left limped in, but then when he had a chance, he back raised to $125. Now another player's all in for $165, but that doesn't reopen the betting. So now everyone is gonna call, and we're gonna go like 6 ways to the flop, and I'm trying to hit something with Jack 9 offsuit. We're going to the flop. Let's hit something. It's a queen eye flop. It is not good for my hand. This dude goes all in for $300. That ruins my fun. Now 2 more players go all in, and we've got a huge pot with 3 all-ins. The guy on my left wants to show the vlog. He's got pocket queens. He's in pretty good shape with top set. Going to the turn. The turn is a 4, and he's got queens full of 4s. That's going to be hard to beat, and he scoops a massive pot. The guy who we're all trying to trap wasn't even in this hand. Dunk the drunk has ended, and now we're back to playing real hands, and we've got people really limping. I've got a suited ace on the button. I'm going to make it $40. We know what's going to happen. There's going to be 1 or 2 callers. I'm going to miss the flop. I'm going to c-bet, and hopefully they're just going to fold. I can't stress enough how important it is to not play this way. You can't just let someone else dictate how you play hands. You need to be the one deciding how big pots are going to be, which hands you're going to play for how much money. The flop is 10-5 deuce rainbow, but with the 10 of spades. The best thing about this flop is that it really only connects with a few of the commonly played hands, so when it checks to me, I decide to c-bet $100. The big blind folds, under the gun folds, and middle position folds. Rinse and repeat. The player in the 10 seat had asked for a table change, then came to our table and complained about all the pre-flop raising. So I was kind of giving him hell about it before this happened.
It's a 15 or 100 raise. That's 25.
No, I'll show.
Okay.
Dude, whatever. I tried to assure the table that I have a legitimate hand, and I'm not just raising because this guy's been complaining. But in reality, I'm just raising because this guy's been complaining. And I get caught in an all-in spot where I made it 75, and this guy who only called 15 now wants to go all in for $345. So whatever, I make the call. And now both players on my left go all in. They both got about 350, so we've got 3 all-ins, and I called and I cover, but I'm gonna have to hit something to win this hand. And the flop is ace-7. Just joking. The flop is 3-3-4. I completely miss, but the turn is a 7. The river's a 5. I have a 7.
No good. Flush.
Wow. 7 was good.
This was good.
I actually had the best hand pre-flop of everyone. This hand starts with no action junkie, making it 36 to go. I've got pocket 6s, I'm gonna call. There's a caller in between, so the pot's already $100 going to the flop. The flop is King Jack 4 with Jack 4 of clubs. The pre-flop raiser goes all in, but something about him makes me think he's not that strong. And I don't mind doubling this guy up. Then he can't have a stack that he can shove constantly. So I make the call, we're gonna need a good run out. The king on the turn doesn't change much. The king on the river doesn't change much. He shows ace 3 of clubs, and I win with pocket sixes. Check out my website, razorclothing.com, for poker t-shirts, hats, and hoodies. We've got a $6 button straddle and a limp. Finally, a premium hand. It seems like a week since the last time I've had pocket queens 5 times in one session. This hand starts with me making it $40 to go with pocket queens. There's nothing exploitative about this, sometimes you just have a good hand. After raising, we get a call from the cutoff. The button also calls, and it's around to the limper, who also calls. We're going 4 ways to the flop. The flop is 8-3-3. That's a great flop for an overpair. It's checked to me. I decide to bet $85. The cutoff and the button fold, but the under the gun player decides to see the turn card. The turn is the 9 of diamonds. This is the great thing about that bottom card being paired, is now even if he has 8-9, I'm still ahead. The bad thing about the bottom card being paired is that if he has a 3, I'm just gonna pay him off and I'm not gonna stop firing. I make it 175 to go on this card, he tanks for a while and folds. Another one for me. This hand, there's a $6 button straddle. There's a fold from the small blind and a call from the big blind. Folds to me, I have ace 10 offsuit. I decide to raise it up. I make it $40 to go. We get a call to my left. Another call. And another call. It seems like maybe players want to play pots now. Maybe this game has loosened up a bit. So we're going multi-way to the flop. The button folds a straddle. And the big blind also calls, so 5 ways to the flop. The flop is queen 10-8 rainbow, so I flop a pair, but I decide to check. This is kind of a scary board. There's a lot of hands that hit this flop, or they could have a pretty good draw. They possibly could have flopped a straight already, but nobody bets, so on this 7 turn card, I'm gonna bet this. When it checks to me, I think about my sizing, and I decide to bet small, $75. The player on my left folds. We get another fold. The hijack calls and the big blind calls. The river is a 5 of clubs. It checks to me. I don't really see a reason to bet this river. I'm just gonna check. Let's just get to showdown. I check over to the hijack, and he's got a different plan for this hand. He bets $325? I don't actually believe this bet. What does he have that he can bet $325 on this river? If he had 6-9, which is a straight, that means he would have turned a straight. If he flopped a straight with Jack-9, would he really wait till the river to get value? I just don't believe this story. It's a lot to call though, $325. Man, I think I have the best hand. What do you guys think? Pause the video, type in the comments, ace 10 call or ace 10 fold. Do it now. I decided to call and he says, you got it, but I'm not sure. He shows a 10 and I know I have the nut 10, so I show and he mucks. We have a few folds of this hand before the first limper and then a raise to $30. I've got ace queen. I'm gonna make it more. I make it 100 to go. I love re-raising in spots like this. I want to take the action over and control this pot. Now he's to call all my bet sizes. He's also not going to know what kind of hand I have. Do I have aces, ace queen, 10-7 suited? He's going to be guessing the entire hand, not me. It's folding around to the limper. He's never calling in this spot. He's acting like he's thinking. But now he's just gonna fold something like pocket threes. The original raiser calls and we're going to a flop. The flop is queen, jack, 8, and that's a pretty good flop for top. He checks to me. I'm gonna c-bet. There's 200 in the pot. I decide to bet 150. There's a lot of draws out there. He can connect with this board pretty easily. He calls, and the turn is a 10, which makes any 9 a straight. He checks. He's only got $305 left. Even though this is kind of a bad turn card, I'm just gonna put them all in. I put them all in, and he doesn't snap call, so that's good. He's in the tank. He decides to call. The river's a 10 of hearts. He shows 8-10.
Oh my god. Oh my god, though. Full house.
He flopped a pair and went backdoor full house. The button makes a $6 straddle. The small blind folds. The big blind calls. And it's over to me, and I have ace of diamonds, 10 of hearts. This is good enough for a raise. I make it $35 to go. I've been doing this all night long, playing a lot of these unsuited hands, but at least all of them can flop a straight, which to me is really important. I'm probably not going to be seen playing ace-9 offsuit, but I'll play queen-jack offsuit, king-jack offsuit, ace-10 offsuit on a table that's playing this weekly. The button calls, and also the big blind, he decides to call too. I completely missed this flop, but I do have the ace of diamonds. The flop is queen, queen 4 with 2 diamonds. The big blind makes what is absolutely a weak lead here. This guy just has a 4 here almost every time. And all the other times he just has a flush draw. He never has a queen here. He never even has a hand like pocket 8s. He just almost always has a 4. He's either trying to block her bet or bluff me thinking I'm gonna fold. But I decide to make a min-raise. I'm not gonna get into the details as to why, but this is something you should consider in this spot. I'm making $90 to go, and he snap calls. I didn't expect him to fold. The turn is the 8 of diamonds, so now I have the nut flush draw. I'm really not worried about this guy. I think he just has a 4. After being raised, he now leads 150 on this turn, and I'm not trying to bluff him just yet. I'm just gonna call to represent some strength, and I can still hit a diamond, ace, or 10 and have the best hand on the river. The river's the queen of spades, and this guy has to be worried about overpairs. I'm probably gonna have to make a big bet on this river to make him fold his 4, and he checks to me. Now it's about picking the right sizing. There's 550 in the pot, and I bet 325. I think this is big enough to get a 4 to fold. He goes into the tank. I'm not sure what he's thinking about. He should just be putting a 4 right in the muck. Muck your 4. Let's go to the next hand. There's no way a 4 is good. I raise pre-flop. Oh, he called. Oh yeah, you're good. And he shows 7-4. There's 6 on the button in this hand. Both blinds folded. Are we gonna have any limpers? There it is. We have a limper. I look down at queen 10 offsuit. There's 2 limpers. I make it 40 to go. I would say that about 90% of the time, my pre-flop raise sizing is pretty GTO. I'm pretty consistent with my sizing. It's hard for someone to pick up on, do I have queen 10 offsuit or do I have pocket queens? And this hand I have queen 10 offsuit. We're going to the flop and I flop an open-ender with a backdoor flush draw. They check to me and I make it 100 to go. The first player calls and the other player folds. The turn is the 4 of diamonds. That doesn't help me at all. It's really hard to rep a big hand here. It probably looks like I just have 1 pair and I decided just to check behind. The river does give me a straight, but it makes the flush come in. He checks to me. I'm gonna value bet this. I bet $275. I think he can call me with a hand like King Jack or King 9. I don't think he has a set. He probably would have shown us earlier and he decides to fold. Surprisingly, in this hand, there's no straddle on the button, but it looks like the guy wasn't at the table to put it on. The under the gun player makes it 15, and I decide to just call with King Jack suited. The action is moving around the table, and the hijack decides to call too. The cutoff and the button both fold. The small blind gets out of the way. It's over to the big blind. What are you thinking about, dude? He decides to re-raise to $75. The first raiser calls, and I'm definitely calling. It looks like the hijack is gonna call. He calls. We're going 4 ways to a flop, $300 pot. I flop top pair. The flop is Jack 10-3 rainbow. The pre-flop 3-better now checks, and the pre-flop raiser checks, and I decide just to check behind. It's over to the hijack. He's gonna check. The turn is a 10 of clubs, and although this could improve somebody, if it checks to me, I'm gonna bet. They do check to me, and I bet $200. I already pot controlled by checking the flop, and now I'm gonna bet my top pair on the turn. The big blind calls, and the original raiser calls. The river's the king of spades. This card does improve me to a bigger 2 pair, but I'm not sure this card is that great. I do now beat ace jack and I'm ahead of ace king. Now the pre-flop 3-better goes all in for $285. This pot is $1,100. If it folds to me, I'm gonna have to call, but I don't know what hand to put these guys on. I'm actually relieved when the original raiser decides to call. I know I can't beat both these guys, so I fold. The 3-better had queen 9 and river to straight? After all the exploitive play and all the raising and re-raising, it took just a few big pots to get me to fall into the red. I bought in for $3,000 and I cashed out $2,200 for an $800 loss.
Oh my god, it is Wes' game! I cannot believe it. Oh my god! It is.
You're so dumb.